Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us this evening. We're going to get underway with our kickoff to our Color Trend 2021 Color of the Year video series. I'm joined tonight by the one and only Athina Moutsatsos. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yes, you are.
Yes, awesome. I wanted to make sure I did it right. And Athina, your company is called Homestyles by Athina, right?
Yes.
Awesome. I think everybody just knows you as Athina. I know that a lot of people tuning in are going to already be familiar with you, have heard about you, maybe have seen you on Instagram or know people that have hired you. But in general, you're pretty new, right? I mean, in the big scheme of things, you probably don't feel new now, but just for people that haven't met you before, how did you get your start? Tell us about yourself and how you got into interior decorating.
Well, I got into it quite late in the game. Out of high school, went to Laurentian University where I majored in history, and then I figured I would tack on the concurrent ed program onto that undergrad to graduate with my undergraduate degree as well as a teaching degree. I very quickly realized that I am certainly not a teacher, but I finished the schooling anyways, and I have those degrees sitting in a desk collecting dust. After that, I took 2 years and just worked full-time as a waitress and kind of thought, okay, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? I sort of applied to the interior decorating program on a whim because I was always told, oh, you should really be into design, you should really be into decorating, but I never took it seriously, and I didn't think Sudbury really had the demographic for it, so I never gave it any more thought. So after a particularly rough waitressing shift, I came home and I poured myself a glass of wine and I literally Googled how to choose a career. And the first thing that came up was, what do your friends and family tell you you should do? And I thought, well, everybody tells me I should be in design. So found a program in Oakville at Sheridan College, applied on a whim, got in, and 2 weeks later, I moved to Oakville and started the interior decorating program. 2 years later, I moved back here and started my business. So it was kind of an absolute unplanned whirlwind. That's kind of how I lived my life. So it worked.
That's amazing. I think that's really, it's so interesting. You mentioned that after a particularly difficult waitressing shift. And I mean, do you just ever think like, wow, you're really doing, as your job, what your passion is and how lucky that is?
Yes, when I was a kid, I used to rearrange my bedroom all the time because I was just fascinated by, you have the same furniture, it's the same exact room, but by the simple act of rearranging it, it feels like a whole new space. And I would do it for fun as a kid. And then as I got older, I would do it to avoid doing my essays and doing homework. And I would just I just loved it. And I did it as like a distraction almost because I just loved it. And that was that. So then even when I was in school, we'd be learning about whatever topic we'd be learning about. And I instantly you just get it. And it just makes so much sense. So then that's when I kind of realized like, maybe I should be doing this and maybe I can do this in Sudbury. So here we are.
And you really are doing it. I mean, like, this is your full-time job. I've heard so much amazing feedback. You've really, transformed people's spaces. And when you're transforming somebody's space, you are transforming their life. So it must, the journey must be really rewarding.
It is. It's that end product that I give people is their space. It's not like I'm giving them an item. I'm giving them a whole space. And it really does affect your mood, I'm getting a little dramatic here, but like your quality of life even is affected by your space. And I think people are especially after COVID and having been kind of trapped in their homes, people are realizing that the space that you live in really does have an effect on your life. And it's important to have something that you love, that you're comfortable being in. So I think it's starting to catch on.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Even ourselves, when you're spending so much more time in your home and then you realize just what an impact it has on your well-being. And, if anything, it's been a good opportunity for us to focus on that and to, kind of like inspire and uplift our lives through our homes and, putting that back at the center. Like that's how Matt and myself feel about it. I mean, we spend a lot more time at home with Holly and yeah, it's just, It's been really great, actually. So, so now I know our whole goal tonight, you know, every year when they launch, you know, color of the year, every brand comes out with color of the year. It's a little bit of buzz in an otherwise very non-buzz industry, paint, right? Yep. So, you know, it's really exciting when color of the year comes up, and we spend a lot of time trying to guess what it's going to be, right? And now, question, because I know that we've asked you to choose, you know, color of the year Athina edition and color palette Athina edition.
Yes.
Are you surprised by this year's color of the year?
I am. I have to say, I really am. Yeah, I was way off when I was trying to guess what it would be. I was like wrong.
I thought it was going to be a yellow, so I could not have been more wrong as well. But before we get started talking about color of the year, when you and I first started talking about doing this video series, we were joking, we're like, you know what? We'll get some wine. We're going to drink wine, get on a Zoom call, and talk about color trends. And I don't see a glass of wine in your hand. So are you willing to share a little bit of happy news with I guess our entire kind of community and followers with why you might not be having a glass of wine?
Yes, unfortunately, I cannot drink wine with you, Kelly, because I am having my first baby.
It's so exciting. Thank you. You know what? That is the happiest news. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm just thinking, like, are you finished the nursery?
If I showed you what that room looks like right now, it looks like a bomb went off. It's that room in our house it's that room in our house that just kind of collects things, and it's mostly like a small inventory that I have going for clients. It's everything, and I have about 6 more months left to figure my life out, so it'll get done. I've not a clue what I'm doing.
I think I'm not the only one where I'm happy to hear that somebody like you has that room also.
Totally.
Because we all have that room. So it definitely makes me feel a little bit more normal knowing that, you know, somebody whose design and taste I admire so much that you also have it. That's great.
Do you know the saying, the shoemaker's children are never shod?
Yeah.
Same thing. Same thing.
Yeah, most certainly. That's hilarious, actually. Okay, so color of the year 2021. Aegean teal. You got that tip. Tell me, okay, so you've already mentioned that you were surprised by this.
Yes.
Be honest, what do you think?
I am not entirely in love with this color. I might go against popular opinion, but it's kind of the job as a designer to go against popular opinion. I can honestly say I don't really see myself using this color. And I'm not even really sure why. I think with paint, I usually go very neutral, very timeless, unless it's something specific, like a front door, maybe, even a basement, somewhere that it's not kind of in your face every day. And the reason I say that is because I really do love saturated colors. I love bold colors, but I think that they need to be used in the right application. So I can see with this color, you know, it's the color of the year. So everybody thinks, oh, it's the right color for everything. But it's our job as designers to say, this is a great color, but let's maybe use it in the right application. So I wouldn't say paint a whole living space this color, but I could definitely see it in maybe in like a historical home that's, you can kind of get away with doing one color in each room as long as they're in the same family. Color
that's
tone
interesting.
family.
Do you know what I did think? And I think we might almost need to see more room images of spaces done in this color. You know, one thing that did strike me is it would look beautiful with warm metals. Like it would look beautiful with gold and brass, copper. Like it would need warm metals to really pull it together. So I think it's so interesting because, you know, whenever we launch something like this, or Benjamin Moore launched something, there's the extreme. There's the, oh my God, I love it. And then there's the, And I often find, I think it will grow on me. I was really surprised. I was really like, huh? What is that? You know, because I don't know. I was surprised at how dark it was. But the rest of the palette, so when Benjamin Moore launches the color of the year, we put a lot of emphasis on on that one color. But they
Yes.
also launched a palette of Color Trends colors. And there's some really interesting colors in the overall palette. And this happens every year, right? Where some of the colors in the palette actually end up stealing the show from the color of the year. So, so we're going to be posting, links to these palettes and putting them in the comments feed. But tell me a little bit about your thoughts on the overall palette that they launched. Are there some colors in there that you could see yourself using?
Absolutely. I think the color palette in general is pretty varied this year. So some years it tends to look all pretty similar, which isn't a bad thing. But this year I find that there's so many options in terms of color family to work with. And in terms of me using some, for sure, I've used some of them. I've used muslin quite a few times, which is this one. So it's hard to tell on screen, but it is a warm neutral.
It's really pretty.
One that I haven't used that I would love to use is Chesterton Buff. That warm mustard color, I love it. I love it so much. I would use this in an entire room. Maybe I'll do my nursery in this color.
Now this is an interesting color because I genuinely thought it was going to be a yellow, because I feel like color of the year has the, I just thought it was going to be something optimistic and bright. I don't know if it would have been this yellow or this gold, if I had to pick like one to take with me to a deserted island. But this is an interesting color because you can use it on walls. I mean, would you see yourself potentially using something like this on furniture or other accent pieces?
Absolutely, I would. Yeah, this would look even really cool, if you had an old dresser or nightstands or something. I'm a big fan of using color on furniture because oftentimes furniture is so very neutral. Again, not that that's a bad thing, but sometimes you need just a little bit of something else. So having a bold color on furniture is, I think, every time it's better than white or black. White and black just gets so old so quick. So to use something with a little bit of color, it gives some character and it gives some intention to the space.
Yep, I love it. I think it's great. What else? So we have muslin, Chesterton Buff.
Kind of digging, what's it called? Potter's clay.
Oh, I love it. I do not feel that this could have been color of the year. I feel like I matched. This is like, where'd Kelly go?
Kind of in my light, I'm also matching.
I know, right? It's awesome. This is a really beautiful terracotta, leathery terracotta color. It's very, very nice.
Yes, I love it. I think that's another one that could work well on walls, on furniture. It doesn't have to be an accent wall. I've done accent walls and there's definitely a time and place for them, but colors like these that are so bold, kind of go big or go home. Either do it all or not at all.
Yep. This is great. And, are you surprised by any of the colors that they put in the color palette?
I don't know what it is. I'm surprised by the kind of purpley, mauvey blues. So we have Silhouette and Amazon Soil.
Yeah. These ones. This is the Amazon Soil?
Yeah. The Silhouette to me it's beautiful. It's kind of like an inky, bluey black.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I changed my mind on the Silhouette. Never mind. This is the one that surprised me the most, is the Amazon Soil.
Yep.
Wasn't there a color of the year recently that was kind of purpley, or am I making that up?
Shadow. Yeah, no.
Shadow, yeah.
This is, I think it was like 2017.
Yeah.
I'm mixing up my years, but Shadow is very similar to this. It's very warm. This is it's almost purpley. Like it's a purpley, browny mud color. But it's
the reason this one surprised me, it's because it kind of stuck out from the rest. So the Amazon Soil and the color of the year, the Aegean Teal, to me are the two that are kind of over here, and the rest of them all sort of blend seamlessly. I don't know what it is, but these two stuck out to me as kind of their own category, and then there's the rest of the palette.
Got it. Now, last year, color of the year for 2020, they forecasted first light, which really shocked everybody because, let's face it, it was pink. This year, this foggy morning color.
Yes.
And I'm holding it up against atrium white because you can't really tell how pink foggy morning is until you see it against something else. And then you're like, oh, really similar to color of the year last year, don't you find?
I agree. As soon as I saw it, I went, wait a minute, is that first light? But it's not, and it's beautiful. I love that soft, kind of like a dawn pink color to work with.
Now I've got a question.
That's what I mean by this palette this year is just, it's so varied.
Yeah. Are you a pink fan?
Love pink.
I thought so. I hope we can like pull it up on here, but I mean, your Instagram feed is it's so beautiful. It is so beautiful. And I always find it's like so inspiring. And one of the things that I love is that you bring in like travel photos and kind of like real life photos that also work its way into the aesthetic. So I'm curious about that. Like when you are building a palette and a space, I know I'm leaving the color trends conversation.
That's okay.
But I am so curious about how much does travel or outside influences play a role on your overall aesthetic and your concepts for a space?
I think it plays a huge role. I love to travel. When we do travel, the two goals that we have are to eat everything and to see everything.
There is a lot of food and wine on your Instagram. That is true. I can
Yes. I have, well, with a Greek father and Italian mother, my life revolved around food always, and it still does. My husband is an absolute foodie and he's a total, like, loves wine. So it's a big part of my life. But with traveling, besides eating everything, is I love to look at the architecture of wherever we are. I love history. So that was my major in university, and I absolutely love history. So I feel like with decorating, I really try and blend those two passions together. So when it comes to figuring out a palette for the space, I always start with, the architecture of the home and then kind of build from there. My absolute favorite homes to work in are historical homes, and I just fall in love with each and every one of them. And then that's when we can really have a lot of fun with historical colors. So ones like this, the Potter's Clay and the Chesterton Buff. So those deep, rich, saturated colors are, to me, so historical, and they're so fun to work with when you're creating the foundation of the space. I usually go for paint last. So it's the last thing that I kind of think about and pick in a space. Unless it's a home, like I was just talking about, unless it was a historical home, then I usually start with the paint color.
That's
which
very
is completely
cool. Interesting.
Yeah, which is completely opposite of what I usually do, because most of the time it's, newer construction and we go through everything and then do the paint last. But when it is a historical home, I almost always do the paint first. And I don't know if that's just because I'm a history nerd and I just want to do the home justice. I don't know what it is, but it's always my first starting point is the paint. And then I work everything else around the paint. But sorry, going back to travel, I think that's part of it too. No matter where we are, I always want to know what the story is of, the people who lived in this area, or how the society was in this area, and why things were built a certain way, and what rooms were used for different purposes. And it just fascinates me. We've obviously half of my family lives in Greece, so we've been there quite a few times, and every time we're there, we go to the same spot every year. It's not like we're traveling around the country. We go to see family. So every time we're back in the same spot, I just am in awe of the whole everything, and just the architecture and the colors they use, and how they've taken buildings from, I don't know, the 14th century and made them into something that you can live in today. My cousin works in a bar that's in a castle that's from the 13th century. And it's the coolest place I've ever been in my life. And every time we come back, it's like I'm recharged for the year ahead.
That is amazing. Yeah, and I'm really encouraged. We're gonna pop a link and also put it on the video. But I really encourage people to to look at your Instagram. It is open, right? Anybody can follow it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Because I just
Thanks.
feel that it's one of those things where you really get a sense of the aesthetic, and it's so beautiful, and just everything just feels so very cohesive. So, which is, I find interesting because the colors, you do have a very, like, easy on the eyes aesthetic. Like, everything is very smooth. And do you feel like that's indicative of your design? Like, do you find yourself using saturated colors often, or do you tend to keep things light and airy?
Kind of both. I love both, but no matter what it is, I always try and keep it as timeless as possible. So by keeping it timeless, it is usually pretty neutral. And then, you know, sometimes people will get caught up in trends, and there's a time and place for trends, but I usually say, save the trends for like toss cushions or a piece of art, but keep the foundations of the space, including paint, neutral and timeless. That way your space is going to have staying power, and you're not going to get sick of it in 6 months. It's not going to go out of style in a year. So I think that my overall aesthetic is very neutral and timeless. My mother always says, you need to wear more color, but I'm a black and beige kind of girl, and black, white, and beige, and that's just who I am. And I think that's reflected in my designs and in my aesthetic and what I just automatically go to. And then I do, though, like to pop in some saturated colors just for a little something.
And, you know, we're going to get to those because, you know, for a couple of years now, we've had your color collection on barrydownepaint.com. So we've had the collection of kind of like your go-to palette that you like to use. And we're going to be updating it this year with your forecast trend colors. And I've seen those. So I know you are not afraid of color.
No.
No, you are not afraid of color. So don't be fooled by the Instagram feed because there's some serious color in there. Now, you mentioned projects, and I am curious, what is your favorite type of project to work on?
Hands down kitchen.
Or hands down kitchens. I love it.
Yeah.
What do you love about doing
Without
kitchens?
a doubt. What's that?
What do you love about doing kitchens?
Everything. I love the technical challenge of making sure the cabinets work and all the function is there. That's where the kitchen design starts. Like before we even talk about color or pretty things, it's always the function. So I kind of lead, like I am very creative, of course, but I do have that analytical mind a little in terms of trying to figure out the best possible layout for a kitchen. Working at Innovative Kitchens has been phenomenal. I've learned so much since I've been there. I mean, I knew enough about kitchen design, but it's like tenfold now. And the details that go into kitchen design are mind-blowing. And I think because I am a foodie, my life revolves around food, my family life revolves around food. Every time I design a kitchen, I think, okay, if this is my kitchen, where would I want my cutlery? Where would I want my pots and pans? Where do I need tea towels? So then from there, once the design is there, then we get into the door style and the hardware and the paint color. And it's just my favorite. My first job ever out of school was a full-blown kitchen gut job. I was equally terrified as I was exciting, but once I got into it, it was almost easy. And that's when I really said, like, okay, those 2 years of school, this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. And I just pulled it together, and it was awesome. The clients were happy, and that was my favorite. So hands down, kitchens are my absolute favorite space to do.
I love it. Well, and they're the most expensive. And
I didn't even think of that. Now I sound like that designer.
No, but you know what's interesting about it though is it makes a lot of sense as a layman, you know, as somebody who, you know, I think about it and I'm like, if I was going to invest in, or like the I guess costs are high, the stakes are high if you mess up a kitchen, because it's the biggest investment that many of us are going to make in our homes. And, you know, not being an expert, little things that you're saying, the cutlery drawer or those types of things, oh my gosh, like it's so important that it's both beautiful and functional kind of functional first, beautiful second. So I think it makes a lot of sense that is where your passion has taken you. And it is the type of thing where a lot of us need help with that. You know what I mean? I can't imagine ordering something like drag and drop.
It's people are shocked at the amount of decisions that goes into, because they think, oh, it's just a kitchen, it's just one room. But there are, I don't even know, hundreds of decisions that need to be made. It's crazy, but I love it.
That's fascinating. So now, okay, so we know you love kitchens. We know light and air, timeless. You use timeless is your core, but I've seen your palette, so I know that you're not afraid of color. I want to ask you about one of the colors that was in the Color Trends palette. I'm just going to grab it here because it's the only gray. You can't tell here because of lighting, but this is gray cashmere. So it's 2138-60 gray cashmere, very, very light gray. I'm going to hold it up against atrium white. Atrium white is also in there. This is a very pretty white. It's almost pinky, but it's really pretty. But you can, holding it up, I feel like you can get a sense. This is kind of the only gray in the palette. What are your thoughts on it? Yeah, you're doing a thumbs up. But you know, like sometimes when people like are thinking, oh, I'm going to update my palette, I'm going to do something trendy, a trend, this might be what they're thinking of.
I have a love-hate relationship with gray. And I think it's because when I got into this business, gray was the thing. So what happens is if there's a color that's super popular, we'll take gray for an example. You have gray hardwood floors, you have gray walls, gray furniture, gray light fixtures, and then you end up in a gray box. Same thing with the late 90s, early 2000s, it was brown, and everybody lives in a brown paper bag now because everyone wanted to live in that sort of Tuscan villa type design. There's lots of browns, lots of terracotta, but everything is that color and everything is gray. I love gray, but it's that misconception that if you need to update your home, you have to do gray. And that is the farthest thing from the truth. Like I said, I love gray, and there is definitely a time and a place, and I have lots of favorite Benjamin Moore gray colors that I've used and will continue to use, but in the right application. Nothing else in the room is gray, or maybe there's just a few other things that are gray, and you have to kind of balance it out. So I was happy with this palette that it is, and maybe this is just my history obsession coming out, that it is kind of historical with those saturated, rich colors and just a little bit of that kind of modern cool edge of gray. So I was happy about that. They
threw the gray lovers a bone with this one. Or I feel, and actually, I want to actually just go on record. I really love the color because it's not the gray that some of us think of. It's very complex. It almost has like a greenish tint to it. It almost makes me think of like a frosted green glass type of color. It's very, very pretty, and it's pretty light. So it doesn't make me feel like that, like wet cement gray that I kind of go, oh, God, I can't. It's so gray, right? So I really want to get to your palette because one of the things that I find is so interesting, we have all these, companies that say, here are the trend colors. And it brings us to the question of, we are our own area. And, with somebody with your design insight and kind of finger on the pulse of I want to say like kind of helping us define style within our area, I was really interested to find out what you forecast as being those colors that if somebody's saying, I need to do an update, I want to start introducing some trendy colors or some on-trend colors. What are colors that are relevant right now for our market? And so I asked you for your palette. Did you say, I'm still at the store. The store is closed, but I am still here. And I ran down to go and get some of these palettes. Do you want to kind of walk me through what your picks were for your palette this year?
Yes. So for these colors, based on our demographic, our region, I picked them specifically because of what I see almost on a daily basis. So in Sudbury, what I find is that there's either the homes that are a little bit older, like the 50s to 80s mark, and then we have the 90s till now. So in those older homes, most of them have been updated over the years, and they're either in that Tuscan villa look or the super sleek modern gray look. So most of the homes that I see that aren't new construction are that kind of what I call the Tuscan villa look, when everybody wanted to, and who can blame anyone? Everybody wants to live in Italy. I get it, but everything is brown or everything is terracotta, everything. So in order to update those homes, I'm going to use my parents' home as an example. They renovated 15 years ago-ish. And they have a really beautiful tile floor throughout pretty much the whole main living area. But the tiles they're very Italian looking. Like they're all different sizes. They're kind of cobblestoney looking, but they're pretty much orange. They had a lot of wood in their house, which was brown, and they had leftover restaurant paint, which was red. So it was a whole lot of orange and red going on. And I see that in a lot of homes because it's, well, if this is the color of my wall, then I need my pillows this color, and I need my floor this color, and I need my couch this color, and it's all the same. So what I've found is that in order to update these homes, people aren't willing to rip out their flooring and, maybe rip out their kitchens, but paint is something that is so easy and it's so cost effective, and it makes a huge difference. These homes need a light, bright, fresh kind of, a breath of fresh air. In order to do that, you need to stick with a warm, kind of creamy off-white. You don't need to go to the cool grays, because then you're just going to have a total disconnect between the existing features, whether it be flooring or cabinetry or whatever it is, and the paint. So to update these homes in our area, my two go-tos when it comes to whites are Swiss Coffee, always. I think it's just the best to update these homes. It's still light enough and bright enough to update the space, but it still ties into the existing orange flooring, if you will. The neutrals that I use in these homes are muslin, which is part of the Color Trends palette.
Yes,
Kingsport
I saw that.
Gray.
I was like, wait a minute. We've seen this before.
Yeah, I use muslin a lot in these older homes that are in that kind of everything is brown. And it's kind of a good in between. Exactly. Another one that I use is Kingsport Gray.
Oh yeah, I grabbed that one.
I like to find it.
Very beautiful. This is a really nice, it says gray, but it's very brown. It almost makes me think, if you actually went and got a roll of burlap and like some of the threads that are through the burlap, I don't know, like it's a really pretty gray brown. So it's really, really neutral.
This one I use a lot for people who are a little hesitant to go too light and bright if they're coming from a very, very dark home. So that's usually my go-to, just to give them a little bit of lightness, and so that it has a bit of contrast against their existing flooring, cabinetry, whatever it might be.
Because it's pretty dark. Like this color's got some depth to it. Kingsport Gray, especially when you're comparing it against, the muslin, Swiss Coffee, those types of colors.
Yeah. The other one I like to use a lot is Oxford White, because that's a white that stays white. I usually use it on trim, interior doors if I'm not doing a specific color on the interior doors. If it's a white door, it's usually always Oxford White. Ceilings, if it's not a specific color, it's Oxford White. That one too, I think it's still historical enough, because I know it sounds so silly, but it's a white that stays white. It doesn't chameleon. It doesn't turn into pink or yellow or whatever it might be. And people really like that, because I think people are almost, they're kind of scared of white, I think. Because white is another one that's, very trendy, and everyone has the white kitchens and the white walls, and which is fine. But it's one of those whites that you can almost guarantee it's not going to change color. It's a safe white. So I use that a lot for the not so adventurous.
Well, and I find that's such a good point, because the undertone with the white can scare people. You know, we've run the gamut from the very, very creamy off-white, like the white down, like dove wing, white dove, those are a little bit more neutral. Cloud white, even cloud white now, when I look at cloud white, unless it's against a more ambered or like really warm wood tone, sometimes I'm like, ooh, it looks a little yellow. You know what I mean? Like, so it's really, that also, it's nice to have that predictability, because this is truly a very neutral white. There is no undertone in it. It's like, it's Oxford white, like the shirt.
And that's it.
So, it's a classic. So that's awesome.
Those would be, so again, like our demographic has those, you know, very brown houses. Everything on the interior is brown and kind of earthy. So it's good to update them with those colors. And then when it comes to saturated colors, I could have picked 100 of them, I think. But my top three, my top
you
three were
disciplined.
I tried. My top three are Salamander, Dinner Party, and French Beret.
And French Beret. I have to, oh yes, okay, I've got them here. I was like, where'd French Beret go? Okay, these colors are amazing. Which one do you want to
Love
start
them.
with? I know.
Let's do Dinner Party.
Okay. A red. This is a gorgeous red. I found this so interesting, because this wasn't at all what I was expecting you to pick.
Right.
Like, I could not have guessed this. This is a really, really great red, though. So tell me, how would you go about using this? Because, you know, a couple of years ago, Benjamin Moore picked Caliente as color of the year. And I think at the time, people were kind of like, oh, how do I use it? You know what I mean? Like, how do I use a red? So how would you go about using this?
That color I would do for sure on an exterior. So a front door, on shutters, on a fence even. Something to give the exterior a little bit more character. But then on the interior of a home, I would not ever use this as an accent wall. That's another thing I have a love-hate relationship with, but not enough time to explain that. So I would use this in an entire room. So whether it be, I follow these designers on Instagram, Chris Loves Julia. I don't know if you follow them or know of them, but
you know what? I've heard of this, but I haven't actually gone. I'm like, I follow you on Instagram, and I don't follow them.
I'll tag you in their page, but they're awesome. They kind of were the ones that made me fall in love with deep saturated colors. I loved them, but I wasn't really always sure how to use them when I first started. But they've recently just done a music room in a deep red kind of burgundy, and I was like, oh, that's genius. So I would definitely use it in like an entire basement or a bathroom or any room really. And then it's everything else that you put into the room and you make it work. I love it.
I love it. This is great. It's a bold color. Now, I'm going to save Salamander for last, because I think it's special for you. French Beret. This is almost, and I mean this in a nice way, it's like the nothing. Like, it's like a black hole of like, how on earth would you describe this color? Because it's almost not describable, don't you think?
Yeah, I've used it once in a master bedroom and I loved it. And I kind of, when I was sort of pitching it to the clients, because I thought I was nuts, I said it's kind of that moody, inky, bluish green. Super professional.
Moody, inky, bluish green. Okay. And a little bit crazy brown. I don't know, like it's got everything. It's the whole kitchen sink in here.
Yeah, it's one of those saturated colors that it's still, I know it sounds silly because it's so neutral, but people often hear the word neutral and associate it with something very light. But you can still do something very dark and saturated and still have it be neutral. So for their master bedroom, the walls were the French Beret. They had beautiful walnut furniture that they were keeping. That's kind of where I came up with the color, because I said, well, we need something equally as moody and deep as the walnut furniture. And then we lightened everything else up, the bedding, the artwork, the furniture. And it worked, and it's romantic and it's saturated, and it looks great during the day. It looks great at night. And it's just, it's one of my favorite colors.
I love it. I think that people are going to come and take a look at this color. I could see you being able to use it on almost anything.
Yeah.
Anything. Yeah. Inside, outside, cabinets, walls, ceilings. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful. Now, Salamander. I don't know if we're jumping
my little
ahead
baby
here. So this is your pick. This is Color of the Year 2021 Athena edition.
Yes.
It's
Salamander. Yeah, my little lizard.
Love this color. It is like green, black. It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
It's my favorite.
Have you used it?
Yes, I used it in my girlfriend's nursery. They just had their baby in August. So we used Salamander with Swiss coffee.
Beautiful.
They didn't want to go the whole nursery Salamander, which is fine. I forgave her. But so we did an accent wall with the Salamander and used the Swiss coffee on the rest. And it's such a great combination. And the Salamander is perfect. I want to use it in my own nursery, and I want to be as bold as using it on all the walls. I just think it's beautiful. You can use that color anywhere. You can use it on your exterior, like of either the bricks or the siding, whatever it may be, on a front door as an accent. We actually have a color, I know I showed you when you were in at work, but we have a color at Innovative Kitchens that's pretty much a dead match. So I look at it, it's like an exact match. And every day I look at it and think, one day, Athena, you're going to have a green kitchen. And I cannot wait for that day. But those deep green, kind of like the traditional English, Scottish, those scullery type kitchens are totally back now, which I'm loving because I'm the nerdiest history nerd. But I
want to wear this color.
What's that?
I want to outfit this color.
Right? Yeah.
Wouldn't it look great? I feel like my mother dressed me in these colors growing up, and I kind of hated them then. But I love this color now. Yeah. I think it is so beautiful. And you're right, almost like French, like it's like an English green, like an English ivy green. I don't know. It's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. And I think it's one of those colors that's bold and rich and deep, but it can work anywhere. It worked in a little girl's nursery and it was perfect, but it can equally work in like a man cave or a garage or something that's like a cool hip type of space, or something as neutral as, traditional English kitchen.
I don't smoke, but I think if I did, I would want a smoking room in this color. Like I would just want, you know what I mean? Just to go and sip a whiskey and it's awesome.
That's the color. That's it. So that's definitely my top pick, hands down, color of the year, Athena edition.
That's amazing. I'm just trying to think if we forgot any. You did have Black Beauty in there.
Yes, I am a fan of using black. Lots of people are scared of black. I do love black on interior doors, on exteriors, like the whole exterior, and then, accenting it with a colored front door or wooden shutters or cedar shakes on or not cedar shakes. What are they called? Oh my God, mom brain. Shingles, that's the word.
I was like, those shakes, but you were. Shakes, shingles.
Yeah.
They both work.
But no, I love black, and it's one of those colors, again, that people are unsure of how to use. But it can go anywhere. But that's, I think, being the unbiased set of eyes that goes into someone's space, and because most people wouldn't assume, absolutely, I'm going to paint my room black or a deep green. It's just not on their radar, but until you bring it to their attention, and then they kind of get it and get behind the idea. But I love using black a lot.
Me too. I feel like it's just like the good anchor. It's like a good go-to. I know people always say that, but black interior doors is one of my favorite things. All black interior doors. And I know that sometimes people think that sounds a little extreme, but I think it looks amazing.
Yeah. And why not? Like, I find that design, especially going back to what, you know, I expect maybe what the color trends are going to be in our area, lots of things have been done for decades because they've been done for decades. And nobody really questions it. And it's just, well, white doors, you have to have white doors in your house because that's the way to go. And it's like, but why? So I kind of drive some contractors insane because I always ask, but why do you do it that way? Why not do it this way? Why not do black doors in the interior? And nobody really has an answer. And it's like, well, there's your answer. Let's do black doors then. And it's as simple as just questioning why things are done the way that they are, and then maybe figuring out another solution.
I love it. This is awesome. Have we forgotten any colors? I don't think so. We're going to get these. I'm going to try and get
I don't think so.
Posted
I looked at my list.
And we're going to update the palette. I really am. Actually, I think that the colors in Benjamin Moore's Color of the Year palette, I believe some of them are really going to grow on us as the year progresses.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not fully done with the I feel like the 2020 palette didn't get a chance.
It didn't.
It didn't get a chance. Straw, I don't know if it was golden straw. Oh my God, I should know this. Golden straw, windmill wings. Like, there were colors in the 2020 palette. I might not put this out. I might just be like, listen, folks, when you come in, we have to look at the 2020 palette first because I really feel there's some excellent, cheerful, uplifting colors in that palette. I'm excited to be rolling this one out. I love the colors that you picked. I think that this is, it's, you know, on Instagram polls or like the little slider thing, it's going to be interesting to see who, you know, Benjamin Moore Color of the Year versus Athina Color of the Year Salamander.
I don't know what it's going to be.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, because they're totally different.
I know which one is my pick. It's definitely this. So this is awesome. I can't thank you enough. And congratulations. We're really excited to see some update. I think you need to take this nursery project and, I mean, if you're willing to, just to prove to us that you actually do have a room, a scary room with boxes and dumping ground area.
I will take a picture of it and use it as the before. Yeah,
love it.
It's
awesome.
A total disaster. So I will take a picture and that's going to be my before. And then I want to go, my husband's here. I don't know if he's on board for this, but I want to go like bold and different in the nursery. We're not finding out what we're having. And I've never really been a big like theme fan. Oh, it's a girl, so everything needs to be pink, or it's a boy and it needs to be blue. I really like doing, again, timeless and neutral. Just because it's a baby doesn't mean it can't be geared to something with staying power. So I want to do something. Maybe I'll use the French beret. Who knows?
I love it. This is awesome. Thank you so much, Athina. Really excited to get this on
Kelly.
And thanks again for joining us. This has been awesome.
Awesome. Thank you so much.